Sup, guys? Welcome to Remax, episode 51. Not all the overlays are, well, ready to go, but it's okay. It's, September 3rd, episode 51. We missed, or actually, next week is going to be a year, or a year worth of episodes, I guess, because it's been longer than a year. But yeah, let me get Mo and let me get him Mo and Huck in here. But let's start with the intro since we can see Rifkin. Let's start with you, Riff.
Oh, hello.
What have you been up to lately, my man?
Still nothing. I got power back after like the BC crazy storm, but the internet's still kind of shaky. I can't stream to Twitch and I can't play StarCraft 2.
Really?
But I could play Passion Stone on my tablet, which is nice.
That's pretty cool. But what's with the internet not working? Did you call them? Did you complain?
It's just the internet's only been like they've only just got power back for Shaw for like one day, not even 24 hours, and like the ISP problem that because I don't know if you heard about this, but 2 or 3 months ago there's a problem where the entire West Coast couldn't connect to Twitch, couldn't stream to it, couldn't watch it, couldn't nothing, and that's happening again.
I see. Well, hopefully for the sake of base trade and all your fans, this gets solved.
Well, it's supposed to be resolved already, and I can watch your show, but I still can't stream to it, so I don't know what's going on with that.
I see.
Oh,
Interesting.
Zombie Grub's new Twitch emote went through.
Yeah.
Is that you fighting the trolls, Zombie Grub?
Yeah, it's me fighting Twitch chat.
Yeah. What happened with that, by the way? Do you want to talk about it? Air out your feelings?
Oh, I always fight with Twitch chat. This is nothing new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what have you been up to lately?
I had my first class yesterday.
Oh, nice. How did that go?
It was good. They were interested in it. I mean, it's a video game after all, and none of them had really played StarCraft except for one guy. He got to Gold League and wins Liberty.
Nice, nice.
So
He's an OG.
I had to be like, this is the
Original
interface. This is the matchmaking system. This is how you make custom games.
How long is the class? Like, how long are you gonna have these people for?
14 weeks.
Oh, nice. Nice. What about you, Mo? What have you been up to? My favorite ginger man.
I'm doing good, man. I've been kind of out of it lately, but I'm soon back to normal business. I'm in the middle of fixing my sleep schedule once again here. So
Yeah? Seems like every time you come on Remax, that's your go-to. Like, alright guys, I'll be fixing my sleep schedule.
I'll be back any day now. No, but I've been awake 22 hours, so just fighting through this and off to bed and then and live a good life, hopefully.
You
Alright.
sound exactly like you always do on like 1 hour or 22 hours of no sleep. Is that a good or a bad thing? I don't know.
It's true. Alright, what about you?
Why did you leave that awkward silence?
Because I was waiting for Mo to like reply to Rifkin's question.
Buddy,
But-
he's tired. He's had 22 hours of no sleep. Weren't you listening?
I was.
What happened to the good chemistry? I thought we guys knew each other by now.
Come on. Alright, what about you, Chris?
I just got back from Red Bull. It's a lot of fun. Gonna start streaming.
Where
Going
to
to
next?
some DC.
Nice.
There's like a fan meetup thing that's gonna happen in DC. I
Isn't
think
there like
some of us are going.
Isn't there like an open bracket thingy in DC?
I was gonna be a fan, but now I'm not.
No.
Are you going?
I was invited,
Anybody?
but I'm not.
You're not going?
Why?
No.
Why don't you go?
I'm going.
Because originally I was only going to do it for a friend who was like, you know, we need people from the community. And then Red Bull took it over entirely. And I had planned like a vacation in between that time. So I told Red Bull, like, hey, you know, like I would love to do it, but I don't know the schedule and I'm going to be on a vacation. And they took that as a yes, I'm going to go. So they sent me like the fancy Red Bull package, but I'm actually not going.
Wow.
It looks really cool too,
Awkward.
by the way.
Wow.
I'm going to that, and then I'll be going to the actual event that's like a week later or so, and then I'm gonna be going to DreamHack Stockholm. So that's what's coming.
Nice.
But I'll be streaming, and I'm going to a carnival slash fair on Sunday. CNE. I don't know if you guys know what that is.
Is it big?
It's pretty big, yeah.
Is it like once a year only for a weekend?
I
or-
think it's only for 2 weeks in the summer.
Oh, nice.
So it's pretty big. I'll take lots of pictures and I don't know, post them to Twitter or something.
What's
like
your
that.
favorite amusement park candy or like food? Is it like cotton candy? Is it
Dippin'
caramel apple?
Dots.
I like cotton candy a lot.
Yeah,
Oh.
you could eat that
Tell you
like all
what's,
day.
I'll tell you what's the worst. The fucking Ferris wheel. The Ferris wheel is the worst.
It's not food, Rifkin.
Yeah,
No,
we're talking
but,
about
like,
food, man.
We're thinking about the fair, and I'm just getting terrified thinking about it. Like,
He's the biggest baby. To be fair, though, the Ferris wheel we went on in Disneyland is like way different.
Have you guys
California
had
Adventures is a cool one.
Have you guys had the beaver tail? It's like chocolate pizza. Do you know what it
No.
is?
I thought that was like a
Probably
sex
haven't.
move or something.
No, beaver tails. It's like a big thing. I don't know. Maybe it's just French.
I gave her the beaver tail. You know what I'm saying?
There's-
I want to try the food beaver tail. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of food. The girl I know went to it already. She said to try like the red velvet cake Oreos or something.
Jesus.
Like there's like a whole like I'll just link you guys privately, but there's a lot of food. Like food trucks, candy, ribs, all your normal stuff. It's really good.
Nice. Nice. All right. Well,
Why are you making this so very awkward?
what? No, you had one job to do, man. You're the one who was like
Oh,
just thinking about the picture.
Desro, what have you been up to lately?
Not much. I've been playing a lot of WoW. I have an addiction
All we waited
problem.
for.
Yo, you don't understand. Like, this is like how it has to go. I can't just be like, well, guys, I've been doing this. I need them to ask. Otherwise, it's so awkward. But it was
I
too
found
obvious,
beaver
I guess.
tails.
Yeah, beaver tails. You have to try that, man. I'm telling you, it's the best thing. Like, Reese M&Ms with beaver tails.
I'm gonna Google this, and I really
I
hope that you're
linked it
scraping
in
over.
chat. Click the second
I'll,
link.
I'll link it in
The
the.
second link.
The second
Okay.
link that I posted in chat.
Yeah.
In our
Okay.
group chat.
Oh, I see it. Oh, yes, these look really good.
Yeah, they do, eh? It's really, it's the dream. It's the Canadian dream, at least. But anyway, to get back on topic with StarCraft, let's get into the first topic of the week. Red Bull Santa Monica, the qualifiers for the DC offline event. It was a lot of matches. It was a lot of interesting stuff happening there. One of the biggest, I guess, surprise to me is Huck and MC being considered the favorites. And I'm not taking a jab at you necessarily, but it's
We're
like
beasts.
no, but like MC is like MC is MC, right? He's like gonna be like dancing and shit, and he streams now, and he's like hasn't played at all. And then you have all these like top Korean Terrans, and then you guys are the favorites. Like, what happened?
Well, Protoss, first of all, was pretty strong. Let's be honest. Like, that's going to be like a huge factor. Zerg was actually pretty, like, that's the thing that I don't, like, I was really looking forward to this event because at first I thought we were going to do not so great. But then, like, that patch hit and it was like the perfect timing. I gave David Kim a little bit of money. He made it happen. And now we're going to DC. I mean, it's kind of like a stroke of luck because there's 4 Terran teams, 3 Protoss, and 1 Zerg team. And most of the Terrans that qualified, they qualified like, you know, weeks or months ago. And they qualified off of like Terran being really strong at the time because Protoss had like no AoE, there was no adept buff, there was no charge, all this stuff. So all these Terran teams qualified and they had pretty easy runs. And then all of a sudden, you know, Protoss got a nice patch and they started doing really well when historically in Legacy of the Void, Protoss has never won anything. Like not even like a Lycan Weekly Cup or a Desro Weekly Cup or anything like that. So it was just good timing. But then on top of that, I just feel like Archon mode, it's mostly about having really good micro. And me and MC have very good micro. And then I just came up with a very good build. For all the matchups, which was almost the same build in every matchup, and it worked out.
What was it? It was 2 gate or 1 gate?
It was 3-gate Warp Prism, and then
Oh.
you just micro with Adepts, and then off of that you get like a pretty good lead, generally speaking, going into the mid game, and then you just macro some more, and then you win.
Actually, let's take a question from Reddit that's right in this topic. From the Red Viper, he says to Huck, can you talk a little bit about the general game plan in your Archon matches with MC? Who does what and why? How do you communicate language barrier? Do you think Archon mod could become the main thing for Legacy of the Void?
First off, the first part of the question was who does what.
Yeah.
We kind of swap back and forth. So sometimes like I'll just say like, hey, I'm gonna build you micro, goes sure, or he says me macro, you micro, okay, sure. And then throughout the game though, we switch back and forth whether initially I started on micro or macro. So for example, we have our main army, we have a war prism, and then we have like 2 or 3 units harassing. I'll just say, hey, me war prism, you army, okay, or he says the same shit. And that kind of goes into the other question that how do we communicate? It's in Konglish, which is Korean English. It's just basically like if you were talking to someone that was a little slow or retarded in English, you just simplify it as much as possible. So, you say me war prism, you army, or you just kind of dumb it down. You don't use so many extra words and sentences. Just get directly to the point. But MC has pretty good English, so it's not a big problem. I can't remember the other part. Oh yeah, whether this is going to actually take over StarCraft 2. I think 1v1 is always going to be the most popular choice for StarCraft 2. But I definitely enjoyed Red Bull a lot. It was like a lot less stressful to play with someone else and have like that share of burden. And then I think it definitely has its place. I think there will be Legacy of the Void Archon tournaments on a semi-regular basis, and I think like even in Pro League they could adopt one match into like a best of 5 or best of 7.
Nasty make a comeback. But like I saw a lot of responses on Reddit, people saying like it doesn't feel the same when it's a team match. I just prefer the 1v1 format. And then other people saying like, oh, the game's not balanced yet, so like what's the point of watching it? Maybe Rifkin, do you get the same vibe when you guys do Olimo League from like the people in your chat, or?
So, Olympic League hasn't done Archon mode, but it does, and it's only just now getting to Legacy of the Void. But we've covered a lot of Legacy of the Void and Archon stuff. Like Huck even casted the Red Bull or the Red Rocket Beans Archon mode stuff with us too. And the thing I think a lot of people have problems with isn't Archon mode. I think Archon mode is actually more appealing to a spectator because you see more micro and less mistakes. I think the problem everyone gets turned off by right now is balance, though. Lots like. Man, like if people aren't crying about Protoss in chat, they're just crying about how OP one of the races are. And like the thing that's funny is right now in StarCraft HOTS, everyone kind of knows where everything's laid out. So some complaints have some merit, but right now it's beta, and the point is nothing's meant to be balanced in the first place. So all these complaints are kind of just stupid, and it creates a lot of negativity. And I think that is a big problem with Legacy of the Void right now.
Yeah.
But hopefully once the beta comes to an end, people can start appreciating the potential of what's coming a lot more. Because I think Archon mode's really cool. And it's actually funny because I think it was one of the few remaxes I've been on this year where early on I remember Huck saying that it would never be like competitive or anything. And I'm not trying to throw this in your face or anything, but it's just cool to see how much his opinions changed since then. And I'm hoping a lot of other people kind of open up in that same way where they're like, oh, this is actually kind of freaking cool.
By the way, big shout out to Todd for hosting the channel, Mo as well, and Bay Street as well. Previously, Mo, Rifkin was talking about the balance, how it's like a little bit difficult for people to enjoy it. I know you were like big on Legacy, and then they took away the mule, and then you went back to Art of the Swarm. So what's up with that?
Yeah, I mean it's obviously this latest patch they put through made Terran completely obsolete. So you pretty much can't win with Terran. So I'm surprised that like QXE and Beastly that they even won as many games as they did. It's really impressive. But they had their Ghost build, which is pretty. It's like this build that it's probably not very strong, but it caught a lot of people off guard. It seemed, and they seemed to be able to win against some Protosses with that. But later I saw like Huck and MC. They faced that these probe scout that saw the tech lab and said like, all right, and they just made like a cannon and they just won the game with a war prism as the ghosts were attacking. It looked really bad. But yeah, it's like obviously the game is completely imbalanced right now, and I agree that it can put it off for a lot of viewers when it gets like way too imba, as we could see quite. Yeah, like it's more imba now than it was before. I think.
I actually
It's just
disagree.
people just massing adepts. Huh?
Do you not remember the original Cyclone? Like the game is already way better. than
I
its
mean
initial
before
conception.
before the removal of mule.
Oh, okay. So you're talking specifically this patch. Yeah, it's actually interesting because that ghost build was like a variation of supernovas, and it's been around for a while, even before this whole mule patch thing. And a lot of people were like, "Oh my god, this is the first time we've ever seen it." But I think the problem with that ghost build, along with a lot of Protoss in general, is that these people aren't using these builds in tournaments like a Lycan League on a weekly basis. These players aren't coming out all the time, so a lot of this stuff looks crazy and new, but it's been around for a while. It's just sadly not a lot of people are playing or streaming or getting streamed to advertise it. And I think that's actually kind of hurting the beta a bit too right now. Lycan actually went through like this whole, we'll give $100 bonus to anyone who wins a Lycan League as Protoss, just to help get more information out about Protoss, because until this patch, really not a lot of people were willing to play Protoss, even though, in my opinion, they were still viable, just not as viable as they are right now. So it kind of sucks. Like, imbalance is a problem for sure, but people just need to play and start testing things.
Yeah. But Mo, in your blog, you said that you like the changes for the macro mechanics, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't really put it that I liked it. I liked it overall, but that's like very, very complicated. Obviously, the patch was not meant to balance the game. So, and if the game is completely broken, then there's no fun in playing. If you're, I mean, when the patch came out, I just lost against like 5 no-name Protosses, and you realize like I can't do this. And like 2 days later, I saw Beastie Cutie tweet that he's like struggling against random Zergs and Protosses and so on. So he's kind of got the confirmation there. But yeah, next patch should be a lot of fun, and I'll go back to Legacy then when that comes out.
Yeah, let's get into it right after wrapping up Red Bull. So Chris, you made it all the way to the end. You guys were the only one to take maps of True and Dong Regu.
Yeah, we made them our bitch. They talked so much shit. We played them on ladder, right?
Yeah.
We played them on ladder very frequently because we were just sitting like right, we were at this corner and they were at the other corner of the desk. And we played them on ladder like a lot. And then when it came to doing like interviews and stuff, they said like we beat them like twice, a couple of times. And we were like destroying them on ladder. Like the main reason I feel like they beat the other Protosses that they played in the tournament is because we played them and like gave them a lot of practice against Warp Prism and Adepts and stuff like that. But when it came down to it, yeah, we crushed them. We would have beat them if we played maybe 10 games. We would have lost maybe like 2 in like a 10-game series and won 8 or so.
But the games like of Alicia and Puck versus True and whatever, like
Alicia and Crank, and then Puck and Bales.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just
well,
wanted
that's
to
why.
clarify.
Well, yeah, but I meant like these two teams versus DRG and True. They seem like they struggle a lot more than you guys did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do agree that Protoss is strong right now, but I don't think it is as overpowered as a lot of people think. And that is a testament of where it is. Like, we were the only Protoss to make it that far. Puck and Bales did pretty bad, to be honest, and then even Alicia and Crank struggled a lot. I think maybe the only team they beat were actually me and MC. So Protoss isn't super, super strong. Terran and Zerg can win against Protoss. It's just me and MC, the way that we get along and how we coordinate and how we have the same view on matchups and how to play the game align very well.
All right. Zombie Grub, did you watch any of the Red Bull tournament?
Only a little.
Yeah.
So.
Any favorite matches or any thoughts on the tournament?
Thanks for the support, Zombie Grub. I know you're always there for me.
I wouldn't have watched it for you guys anyways. I'd watch it for Crank and Alicia.
Oh!
That's basically the only ones I did watch, actually. And I saw, I guess, like Journey's team get knocked out, but I guess I have no strong opinions. I guess like everyone's already said, like it's totally on balance and imbalanced rather, and like good game to the winners. I don't know.
Would you and Rifkin be interested in doing a similar format for an online tournament?
You mean like the
lives, yeah.
the lives of the defender?
I want to comment on this real quick. Sorry to interrupt. Just because we did talk about this, I think, last Remax, and we were talking about refreshing and cool formats
Yes.
that make StarCraft 2 interesting, and this was definitely one of those. that not only playing it, but for a spectator's point of view, it was very fun, even for us at the event, even if we're losing, to play that event because it was so new and it was so interesting and it was a lot of fun. Sorry, go ahead, Zombie.
It did look like a lot of fun, and I know that a lot of people said that they enjoyed the format. But as far as us doing something like that, I guess you mean online.
Yeah.
I feel like online it wouldn't have as much of a kick because what was really fun is that you were able to like call out someone in real life and like the camera could pan over and they could be like, "What? No!" and stuff like that. Online it would just be like, "Okay, well they chose that team and that team deflected, so now they're going to that team," and there wouldn't be a lot of drama. So I don't know. I don't know if we really want to do it.
I for the most part agree. I mean, like, okay, the reality is like I would want to do it. I just don't know that we could and have the same effect. But also, just commenting on this, I mentioned this on the late game as well. I'll bring it up now. Was one of the things I wish they had advertised more was this sort of like alliances and stuff that were going on. Like they were kind of mentioned briefly, but it'd be really cool to have like Huck off to the side in a camera. And they're like using a hushed voice of the broadcast, saying like, "Yeah, so we all agreed to take out Reality and Journey. Like we made a secret alliance," and you know, like you kind of get that like extra bit to it. I thought would have been really cool. I wish they had done that for it, and that's just sadly another thing that we couldn't do if we did it online.
So Red Bull also did something that was cool that we've talked about trying to do, and we even actually tried for a Legan League, which is getting the players talking to each other during certain points. Like we entirely failed. No one wanted to do it online because you have to download like TeamSpeak or whatever, so that fails. But to have it available for Red Bull was really cool, but I think the impact wasn't quite there. So it was like a cool idea, but more often it just broke the caster's train of thought.
Yeah.
As they also heard what they were talking about, and they have to hear it. They have to know when to stop talking. But it'd be a lot cooler to be like, well, you know, that was a really interesting fight. Let's go back to like an instant replay with their voices would have been a lot smoother as
Yeah.
opposed to just out of nowhere suddenly you hear QXC talking. You're like, who's that third guy? Oh, right, it's the players.
Yeah, when you hear like Huck and MC talking at the end of a game, I kind of thought it was like an accident, like they screwed up the sound or something. I didn't realize that's what they were doing.
Yeah,
right
that's
away.
what it sounded like.
Yeah, they had their hurdles for sure, and the instant replay is a nice solution. Also, one of the problem with what they had is they had so many Koreans. I think there was like 2 foreigner matches, like
Oh,
foreigner
yeah.
versus foreigner. So, like whenever we would listen in, it would just be so pointless because we didn't have a
would.
translator. Yeah, it was. They tried their best, but you know, it's growing pains. I guess maybe they'll have like the perfect format for the finals in DC, hopefully.
Yeah,
I want to say that I found the tournament overall to be really impressive. Like it was the first time we ever saw like as far as I know like an Archon mode tournament like this
Yeah.
in Legacy and everything. So I was like very pleasantly surprised to see that they did, you know, the thing with the microphones that you could hear the players and you know all that like trash talk going on and so forth. So I think they did a really good job for a first try, and I think there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of things obviously that went wrong. For example, listening to Koreans or stuff like that. But that can all be improved. I liked all their ideas that they brought to the table.
I
It was
feel
a
like
very fun tournament.
I feel like ideally that if they did it like LCS, so LCS they do the same replay system. So Red Bull takes those like high impactful moments and then they like montage them together at the end of
A day?
the set or
Oh,
even
I
the
see.
day or whatever. But they do it after a set too, right? And they show like the key points in the game. If they had the whole feed of comms and then they add those specific moments, you know, because obviously before those big engagements go, people are going to be talking, right? And then instead of just live cutting to players and hoping they say something interesting, like just segmenting it the same way and just taking, you know, okay, they talked a lot here, let's segment it with this play here, you know, that kind of stuff. That would be really interesting because we do communicate, but you're not obviously going to be talking to your teammate the whole time,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
saying random shit. It's going to be like, okay, we need to push, you know, grab these units, I'm going to take the warp prism, you do this, oh, and then like a big fight happens and you say like, oh, they're dropping our main base too. Like they could segment that and do it really well instead of doing it live, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that. That'd be interesting. They have the staff too to do it. The last topic on Red Bull before we move on to Legacy of the Void changes was the tweet from Mr. Bitter. Real talk, Archon games from this weekend were the best StarCraft 2 games I've seen since early Wings of Liberty. I'm very sad that so few people watched. Sad face. So, Rifkin, you want to take a jab at that first? Or not a jab, but...
So, I'm actually just gonna parrot a little bit of what In Control had mentioned on the late game, and I'm sorry to keep bringing this up on your show, Desro. But In Control had taken an opposite stance than I thought. I thought everyone was gonna like be really like happy and like positive about it, but he brought up a really good point where Red Bull doesn't really advertise anything. And I think I kind of knew this in the back of my mind, but it never clicked. And I think I don't know if it's an ego thing, and I'm not trying to shit talk Red Bull or anything, so please don't misunderstand. But it's like, oh yeah, people should come to us type thing. Not that we should have to like tell them to come to us or anything. And there was like instances last year we ended up bringing up where, Red Bull would only announce one of its qualifiers like 3 days beforehand and stuff like that. So it would be nice just to have something really simple, an advertisement made, tweeted on the main Red Bull Twitter or something, or anything that just says, hey, guys, remember, a week from now, we're going to have like the most badass StarCraft 2 matches you've ever seen. But unfortunately, while they were some of the best games, probably I didn't get to see all of them. And I know from experience of playing and watching Archon mode that Archon mode games are in general much higher level and a lot more entertaining to watch. People aren't going to watch them if they don't know that it's really going on. Plus, the tournament was run during MSI. It just so many hiccups for what should have been a very good, very well run tournament.
Yeah, like
the other thing too. Sorry, just to cap off this was MSI was a shit show. It absolutely was. I didn't even get to watch it, and I went back to watch it just because I couldn't believe what I heard about it afterwards when I got my power back. And MSI was a shit show. There's actually no reason everyone should have been watching that instead of Red Bull. Everyone should have been watching Red Bull.
Yeah, but
Well,
go on.
they had some really good players. That's the only reason anyone would watch it. And I guess that's the other thing that Red Bull had going against them was there wasn't really a lot of high-profile players. You had Tasia, who I guess they could have hyped up his comeback potential in Archon mode because he's, retiring as like a 1v1 player basically, and they didn't do that. But MSI had like innovation and big names like that. That was a lot more interesting to watch. And I think that's where a lot of people on that Reddit thread where they brought up that Twitter tweet or whatever, they got the idea that like, oh, they weren't even as high level as game. Like I appreciate watching Heart of the Swarm high level games a lot more because I admire it more was because they had like players like Innovation and MSI at the exact same time they had Red Bull with honestly just not very high, I don't know, popular players. Like they're not they weren't the best out of all of StarCraft basically. So
yeah, that's a good point. The quality of players, but the qualifiers struggled a lot. Like I think it was like Vibe, Greetorp, sometimes Nathanius, sometimes Cats. Like they really struggled with their viewership, and that's like your biggest type of advertising, right? Like you're showing like a sort of preview of your big event, and if you can't get a lot of eyeballs on the preview, then go on, Rifkin.
I don't think the casting duos were that strong either. You had Nathanius, who was quite good, and he's played a lot of Legacy of the Void, and he's cast a little bit of it, so he knew what he was doing, and I thought Nathanius was great at the event. And I'm not here I really actually don't have anything negative to say about either Cats, Vibe, or Greetorp, but I don't think any of them paired well together. And that was, I think, a problem with it, where you're watching the broadcast, and you're just not drawn into it as hard as if you've got, like, I don't know, Rotterdam with Nathanius or something like that.
Yeah, that's very true. But... yeah, so basically Red Bull, awkward schedule, qualifiers, poorly covered. And then I feel like they really... because the same thing happened with Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm Beta. It's like the worst time in terms of viewership. It's a really awkward time in StarCraft's life cycle, just like it was back in 2012, 2013, right before Heart of the Swarm launched. So even though they have a great product, it's just like the viewer doesn't know what it wants... what they want and so on. Huck, maybe you have a different opinion on it?
No, I only caught the end and beginning because I had to go to the bathroom, but pretty much I agreed with everything you guys said. Mainly the marketing stuff has always been piss poor. Even the Toronto event when they did it at WCS, it was literally
a
like
week before.
like
Off
a
to the
week
side.
before. Yeah, and it was like some random TL thread, wasn't promoted at all. I feel like you guys hit the nail on the head in a lot of ways.
What about you, Mo? Do you have any
But
ideas?
I assume DC is going to be a lot better. I would
Yeah.
hope so. But
Yeah.
what you have to also realize is that the amount of money and stuff, like as much as we knock Red Bull, as a player perspective, going to one of their events is like the fucking dream beyond belief. Like hotel, flights, food catering, like anything, like they are top notch. They take care of players like no other tournament does. And they spend a lot of money. It isn't like Red Bull's throwing these tournaments and their goal is to make money. They lose money every single time. They just want to do cool shit in esports,
Yeah.
and they're doing it. I just wish they would do it a little bit better as far as the business side of things.
Well, I think I'm just afraid that they're gonna base this year, like they're gonna stop doing it next year because of this year, but this year is the worst year you can base yourself on, in my opinion, because of the beta and everything. So we'll see where it goes. Hopefully they stick around and it works well for them. Yeah, the life cycle. I posted it on Reddit. There's a graph. I'll show the graph. That was like the only comment I posted on Reddit that didn't get downvoted in the past month. I was quite happy. Let me show you.
Just to close up the Red Bull thing really quick
Yep.
too, while you get this, I just want to stress, like, I didn't get to see it live, but I did do homework and I tried to watch some of the VODs and all that, and I thought the production was great. Like, a lot of people don't give Red Bull credit for the fact that they have incredibly high stream quality. Some other streams don't. But they do a lot of things right, and it sucks that they're not being appreciated for it. And Huck brings up the player experience thing. Unfortunately, the viewers, we don't get to experience that. But it would be cool if we could, like, get some video out from, like, some B-roll footage of just, like, everyone at dinner drinking soju or whatever. Like, I wish people appreciate and understood just how much Red Bull, like, really, really does and goes out of the way to do. And I think that could all be fixed, again, with, like, better marketing or advertisement.
Yeah, so I'm trying to show the stream right now. So you can see, like, as soon as the beta launched, there was like a little bump in viewers, and after that it went down by so much. And then before the beta, or yeah, when the beta launched, or when
Well-
the game released, it went up by quite a lot. But
The problem I have with that graph, though, because you've linked this before,
yeah,
is
it's the
that
player
bump-
streams.
It's not just the player streams, but don't forget, that month you had fucking everybody streaming. Total Biscuit was doing Archon mode with Crank. You had random YouTubers who hadn't touched the game in like forever come back and stream for a while. Like,
No,
those numbers were
I'm-
super
yeah.
inflated.
No, I'm referring to Heart of a Storm, Wings of Liberty. I want you to go
Oh, sorry,
back
I thought you
there.
were talking about...
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about the Legacy of the Void one.
No, I just want you to go back there. Like, we've seen it happen before. Like, that's when people started talking about that game. It's just because it seems like a beta for StarCraft just fucking puts the brake on, like, the viewership. Everyone's confused. They don't know what they want. They don't know if they like the game. They just go to something else and they come back when the game is fresh and fixed. So they don't have to, like, scratch their heads, and they dodge the headache of the beta. At least according to this graph. I don't know if you guys agree. But anyway, as we talked a lot about this, Zombie Grub, or you should use your fighting emote. Alright.
I'm not fighting, I'm defending.
Alright.
Defending with her fists!
Yep. Let's go into the beta update. We'll do WCS after. Alright. So the Legacy of the Void community feedback update August 28th. So that was a few days ago, last week. The beta should come out, the patch should come out today or tomorrow, apparently. Some rumors in the wind, if you listen carefully. So they talked, David Kim posted on the forums and talked about a lot of things, such as the Terran's mineral income in the early mid-game being really screwed, or really messed up. Scan becoming too frequent, not special enough. Protoss losing a lot of potential with the lack of or potential like cool choices because there's no chrono boost. And then Zerg having to choose between like more hatcheries to keep up with enough larvas. So just with that, Mo, I guess, do you agree that Scan is like too redundant and that, I mean, you agree with what he said, right?
I didn't, like, I never read into David Kim's opinions too much. He seems generally pretty clueless about what he does. So I pretty much just look at what ideas he has to change the actual game.
And by the way, I don't know who banned Aggression, but he's been spamming me for unban, so I'll give him a chance. He's a troubled child. What about you, Chris? Are you looking forward to Chrono Boost coming back?
I like when they got removed, and I feel like most professional players like the fact that they were removed, the macro mechanics. Obviously, there needs to be a lot of balance still going forward as far as Terran, mineral income, stuff like that. Maybe this will be a nice middle ground. As it's a beta, right? So this is what the whole point is. Everything is to check. But as far as macro mechanics go, I like the way it was when they had them removed. Chrono Boost coming back. I mean, sure, whatever. Let's try it. Who knows? I don't know what to say until I get my hands on it, really.
All right. Yeah.
I think it. Okay, so you were asking for my opinion. So I wanna.
Alright,
So it's
everyone,
like- it's
grab,
like a
grab a
hitch.
cup of coffee, settle down.
Gather
Or can I
around the
go-
campfire.
Some graphic.
Yep.
If you can do something else, I'll be ready again in an hour. We can start talking again. No, but I think like with the mule removal, the biggest problem about that was that the game was gonna be way too hard to balance from that because it's gonna be like a whole new game. And I think what they do with the mule change is really smart. It's still like you're not gonna be able to sacrifice workers because you can't drop mules anywhere. But you can still, do SCV pulls because you're dropping mules at like mineral lines before you're mined out, basically. So you still have that. But yeah, but mules being nerfed and everything being nerfed, I think that's a really good way to fix it. And yeah, like what they're doing with the mule, it is essentially like the bad parts about the mule is gonna be fixed. And what they said was the biggest part is that you can get like sick amount of income by just dropping mass mules on one base.
Yeah, that's true,
And
right?
another thing is that what I really liked about what they said first when we were going to remove the mule was that I was going to be able to scan more, and I wasn't going to be rewarded as much for skipping a scan, dropping a mule instead. I could get ahead so much from that. But now when you don't have when you're not wagering scans and mules, it's gonna allow Terrans to basically play more consistent. Like we have less opportunity to use coin flip to get money out of nowhere, which means we don't die randomly as often to all-ins and stuff like that. So I think it's really good with the mule. The chrono boost, like I think they could have removed the chrono boost, but I do like the idea of a nerf chrono boost as well. That could be a nice middle ground. That was actually my original suggestion about chrono boost, was that we would not remove it in the first place. So that's not what's happening here. About the inject, it's like it's still like really silly to have automatic injects because like with Protoss and Terran. It's so hard talking about this when I've been awake 23 hours. Okay, so basically, like, the reason we have inject in the first place, like not being on auto was because like Terran based macro mechanics and pros, like you had to build pylons, supply depots, you got SimCity, swapping add-ons, like all these things are pretty hard to do when you add them up. And comparing to like building overlords is like very easy in comparison. So
Yes.
Zerg is just pretty easy without inject, if that makes sense to you guys. And like going through cycles of like building units out of a lot of production.
Use your other hand. Use your other hand.
If you don't want me to talk about this, I can,
No, it's
No,
Sorry,
no, no,
not-
no. I wanted to talk because the new Chrono Boost and the new Mule is going to be automatic too.
yeah,
it's-
I know that.
Okay. Because you seem to be like harping on the fact that the inject is automatic and it shouldn't be automatic.
I was
Well,
gonna get to that. So yeah, that's why you had the automatic inject, and the reason why it's so bullshit that Zerg gets automatic inject and Protoss gets automatic chrono boost, but not really, and Mules being automatic. The problem here is that like injecting was the absolute hardest part about Zerg macro. This is not something that you could ever fuck up. If you miss an inject, you pretty much lost the game. And this was never the case with Chrono Boost or Muse. So these were, not very hard to do in the first place. Whereas Inject was such a vocal point of Zerg. So Zerg is getting the best deal out of this if you're comparing Heart of the Swarm to Legacy of the Void in terms of how difficult the races are. And that's why it's problematic to have automatic injects. But one thing they did write about was creep spread that made me quite excited. It's that you will basically have creep spread that spreads more quickly, and what that means is that you can actually like put down tumors and increase your creep spread if you're the better you are at doing it. Because right now the cooldown to put down a new tumor it's not as long as it takes for a creep tumor to spread out all the way. So if you're not doing it perfectly right now, you don't get punished for it almost at all, because your tumors are still spreading after the cooldown is off. And this might not be the case after that, so Zerg is gonna have added the difficulty to the creep spread, and maybe that's what they're going to compensate with that. But yeah, that's my main worry about all this, is that Zerg is becoming too easy. And I hope I'm not coming off as biased. If you got any questions about it, I can, answer that and so on.
Yeah,
So
and
I do like the patch overall.
And that goes for our audience as well. If you have any questions, make sure to hit the Reddit thread. If you want to pick Mo's brain, his beautiful thoughts about Zerg being too easy. Rifkin, do you have a counter argument to Mo's thought?
I don't really have a counter argument. Just kind of some different points, I guess. So first thing with Zerg being too easy, like that's a of course balance and stuff. But the thing about I don't know that I agree with this whole like, okay, so Zerg doesn't have enough to do or whatever, because with Overlord spread, with creep spread, making sure you're not out of position and stuff. Like, okay, there's all these things every race has to consider. But I think right now the interesting thing about Zerg is like, and this has just been the whole trend of the beta, not just this recent patch where they got rid of the macro mechanics, but Zerg got all the good stuff right away. Zerg's continued to get good stuff. Like, Zerg's kind of had the sweet life when it comes to the beta. And I'm not talking in terms of balance. I mean, they've literally just gotten buffs and buffs and buffs and nothing else. They finally got Zerg to this like really good point. And I wish rather than trying to like tweak the other races to like bring them, it's not like they're trying to bring everyone up. It's like they're trying to bring other people down. And I don't like that for balance design. But it will be really interesting to see the new changes come into effect, because I think a lot of things Mauro discussed, I don't know, it's all going to change. Creep spray going faster, but also receding faster. I'm more interested in it receding faster than anything else.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. That's going to be good for Terran, right, Mo?
Yeah, it is. I can't believe how slow it actually has been receding. But yeah, that doesn't change a lot. I don't think it is just more like it's gonna reward the other players for cleaning up creep spread. It doesn't really have anything to do with with the Zerg per se.
Something I wanted to ask.
What they're doing with their EPM and so on.
Yeah, something I wanted to ask before Mo took the spotlight, and fucking Huck walked away. So I guess. Well,
You probably thought Mauro was still speaking.
no, it's all good. What about you, Zombie Grub? What's your thought on all of this?
On all of what specifically?
Like, I guess like the mule, like having to move the orbitals and so on. Do you like that? Having a casting range on mule? Will you find that challenging?
Challenging? I don't know about challenging. Maybe on Terraform because it messes up, but I don't.
Do you think it's a nice middle ground to have like the mule on casting range?
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, this is all what I think we hoped and expected somewhat from the very beginning when they said like we can either half everything or we can completely get rid of it. When they completely got rid of it, I just assumed they were going to try and improve it later after seeing the baseline, and that's what they're doing. So I'm eager to try it in real time, I guess.
All right, now that Huck is back, Huck, I had a question for you, and it's something I wanted to ask, but
Sorry.
Mo was
Yeah,
on
go ahead.
fire. Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So you said like you like the fact that there's no longer chrono boost, and it's something that like when I played, I really enjoyed sort of the freedom of not having to worry about chrono boost. Obviously, there's a lot of like balanced issues, like everything like from Stargate and Robo takes like ages to build, but like can you expand on not having to chrono boost? Like how does it feel as a Protoss player?
The biggest point and the problem with when they removed the macro mechanics, and I feel like the majority of people were worried about, is the fact that when you remove them from any of the races, it takes away a lot of like the skill ceiling for the game, and that there'll be like points in the game where you're literally just like looking at your screen, like, man, I would generally be chrono boosting, but I can't do that now, and that's not true at all, especially for how fast paced Legacy of the Void is and how much more micro there is. I completely agree with that point that David Kim meant, that there's just enough to do. You're thrown into the game immediately. You're already starting to build buildings. You're already making choices. The expansions mine out a lot quicker. You have enough to do where you're not like just looking at your base like, man, I wish I had fucking chrono boost so I had something to do. The one problem I would say is the fact that it does limit what Protoss does as far as like tech or their options. You know, they're a lot more constricted in the way that Protoss and Terran and Zerg are, and like how their tech proceeds. Because Protoss, you know, if you have Colossus out and you need to switch to Storm and they're going to do an SCV pool, you rely heavily on that Storm upgrade getting there a lot quicker because you're chrono boosting it constantly, or you're going, you know, double forge upgrades and you're relying on that chrono boost to get you there. So it just makes Protoss play out a lot more like the other two races, I feel like, and the fact that you don't have as many options. You're not as versatile as you used to be tech-wise. But in general, I think that's a good step in the game to make Protoss more like the other two races, and then balance around units and other things instead of just chrono boost.
So, but do you like the new Chrono Boost? That it'll be on
I
one thing forever unless you change it?
I don't know. I haven't played it, so I don't know. I like the lack of chrono boost altogether. If chrono boost was completely removed, you would not hear any complaints from me.
Oh, well.
So one of the kind of interesting things here, and this comes from the perspective of Archon mode, because Zombie and I, for those who don't know, do pretty much exclusively Archon mode. I was really worried that when they proposed removing the macro changes, it would be like really fucking boring for the macro player, and there'd be nothing to do. But that's definitely not the case. And Huck brought up the point of the game being a lot faster paced. And I think the cool thing that it does, and again, this will apply back to 1v1 as well, is that you're no longer panicking. You're no longer like, shit, I have to defend, but I can't because I have to do this like macro mechanic. So I think it's going to improve gameplay. You're going to see less mistakes out of players. Like bringing it back now to the point where it's all half capacity / autocast, I don't think is going to change that, but I think it still eases the burden of the necessity to chrono or the necessity to inject when it's the difference of like, okay, I actually have to defend against banelings and move or something like that. So I think that's kind of cool. Plus, it'll help the. There's always the aspect of it that it definitely helps the lower league players get a better grasp of the game and not struggle as much. Because StarCraft is like the hardest game to play, in all honesty. Getting past that like Gold League, Platinum League, Diamond League, Master League, like those are hard rungs to climb. So I think it'll make it a lot more appealing for people too, without taking too much away from the top end.
You know, they said they actually tried to they tested the game where the units build by themselves.
Oh, fuck that.
They tried
How
it.
would you even that'd be like fucking Nexus Wars or whatever. Like how would you even
They tried it. Isn't that amazing though? Like think about it. You're just fucking microing everything. It's like almost like a MOBA.
Yeah, I got a friend of mine, sort of, and he's like always been like a super hardcore macro Zerg. That's the way that he's always played the game, and he told me like if they keep like auto inject, he might even like quit the game, because he told me like how stupidly fucking easy it is to just sit back and macro and when he's playing Zerg versus Zerg, there's literally nothing that you can like do better than your opponent when nothing is happening. And usually in a mirror matchup like Zerg versus Zerg, you clearly has points of the game where nothing is happening, and then it's like all you do is just you select your larva and build units, select your larva and build units, and it's just I think it takes away a lot of it, and I think the more you will talk to different Zerg players at high level, the more you're gonna realize how they I think most of them will agree that like inject is really that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And like people don't seem to realize how important it is that you can just sit back and play a macro game and get ahead of your opponent. I think that's like super fucking important, that if you want to play that style where you're just laying back, playing economical and forcing your opponent to attack, I think that should be a viable way to outplay someone by playing defensively, so you can actually get ahead. And the more you remove from that aspect, like if you don't have a meta game where something is happening, or if you have passive builds going up against passive builds, since you can't see a difference between the players anymore. And doing this kind of stuff, we're heading towards that direction, and especially with automatic inject, like mule dropping. I never thought mule dropping was hard in the first place. And if even before the patch, like if you remove the mule, you could still like drop supplies, and dropping a supply is maybe harder than dropping a mule. Chrono boost was. You talk to pros players, you did say that it's not that hard, but I've played Sergio a long fucking time, and I know it's really hard to remember injecting and doing all that at the same time. So it's really important that you can get ahead just by playing a macro game.
Yeah, but
But
Well-
I want to make a point. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
That I feel like the reason that Zerg players identify and want to hold on to that for so long is because you got to remember a lot of players have been playing for many years, and Zerg is the race where that is like constantly on their brain. It's something they do every game, like whether it's a 10-minute game, a 20-minute game, 30, 40, 50-minute game, they're constantly always struggling to spread creep, do injects on time, do all these things where Protoss and Terran, they have like you said, you could just save up energy and then drop 3 mules at one time, or Chrono Boost like 15 gateways off 3 Nexus, or 4 Nexus or whatever, right? And then on top of that, an even more important factor, especially in Legacy of the Void, is Zerg has always been the most A-move race in the game. And they just don't have the units that are going to be highly microable. We see in Legacy of the Void, War Prisms are being abused the fuck out of. Terrans, they have Cyclones, they still have Stem. Even Legacy of the Void Archon mode, you can have multiple drops, you can pick up a Siege Tank, micro that nonstop. What the fuck does Zerg have where instead of injecting, they're just controlling these units and trying to harass and do a lot of damage? They have Mutalisk, but that's not really as high microable as like a Warp Prism, warping in adepts, dropping adepts, picking them back up, force fields, or Terran perspective, you have multi-pronged drops. You have the TVT matchup is basically you're picking up like 5 or 6 tanks, controlling the bio, dropping them, and like constantly just a tug of war position and stuff. And Zerg just don't have that. So on top of you removing or limiting their macro mechanics, which they've been like preparing like monks in the mountains for years, pushing that fucking button every few seconds. Now you remove that, their like sense of purpose in life is completely removed, and then on top of that, they have nothing to micro. So they're just like, okay, what am I supposed to do here?
Like
I just wanna
they are
interject here.
definitely there are. Oh, sorry, if you can go ahead.
Sorry, my point really quick is I don't entirely disagree with Huck, but there is some context that needs to be made. Legacy of the Void, there is certainly a lot more Zerg micro. If you guys have ever watched somebody like Bly play, watching someone expertly use roaches with burrow, watching the use of like the later game tech with like vipers and things, I'm not saying that. I'm not disagreeing with Huck. I just want some context here where Zerg actually does have a lot to do now, opposed to HOTS where they really didn't. And in that instance, I agree with Huck like fully and entirely.
Yeah.
I want to bring up the point that basically to add on what Rifkin said. So you have more units of Zerg that pushing towards micro. Lurker, very very intensive. Positioning and all that. Not an A move unit at all. And you got the Ravager, same situation there. Extremely high micro. and so forth. So this is going towards that direction. And then you got, different units of different races. Like Disruptor is gonna force Zerg to, spread out and so forth. And you're not being manipulated by force field anymore. For example, we're actually gonna see Zergs start microing, spreading out, splitting, kind of like a bio player would do. Because a lot of, like, you have been restricted for so long as a Zerg player, not being able to even micro against a Protoss army because of force field. Like, sure, you got some, you got your, baiting force field and so forth, but that's also always been kind of stupid. So you do have more micro as Zerg, but at the same time, you have to look at the other races too. And you got the Liberator, and you got the Cyclone, you got the Disruptor, which is 10 times harder than using a Colossus. So I don't really think that argument holds up, because you do have, like, the other races are also getting even harder micro than before.
So, Moral. So you say Zerg might be too strong, but you're like, moving forward, this design change, you accept it, right? You like it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a lot better than last patch. Because if you add automatic inject to Zerg, you might as well add automatic stuff to the other races too. But I really hope that Zerg gets some kind of thing that a good macro Zerg can excel at, and I hope creep spread becomes that. But yeah, I am a fan of the patch overall.
Okay. Alright, so as someone who's a fan of the patch, let's call in someone who's not a fan of the patch. Avila wants to call in. Let's drag him in. Okay.